12 o'clock here on this Football Friday. Tim O'Malley, Irish Illustrated, joining us momentarily, but we continue our conversation. JR, we're taking Vegas.com. JR, let's continue the conversation quickly. We got the SEC championship game coming up tomorrow, a game that everybody's going to have their sights on here in the state of Alabama in the Southeast, and people can give you folks a call. Your staff studied this game. You've got it dialed in.
We did, and we've got it nailed down. Like I said, guys, I'm so good in these championship games. I'll let you know whether or not Alabama not only covers but wins this game big. All you got to do, call the number right now. It's on the recorded line for free. 888-994-6669 is the number to call. That's 888-9-WIN-NOW. And let's get right into the pick. I know you got a lot of other people to get to. 10-4 here on air. It's either 9-4 or 10-4 here on air with the free picks. And NFL, as always, brings us to a big rivalry matchup. Two teams that are not sexy at all, but one is going to definitely get the better of the other, and that is the Dolphins over the Jets this week. The line is 2.5 right now. Get it before it goes to -3. You want to take the Dolphins minus that 2.5 to easily win and cover that. In fact, I expect them to win this game between 10 and 14 points or more. So get all over the Dolphins minus the 2.5 in the NFL. But look, guys, Georgia, Alabama, SEC championship game. It's yours for free. Call the number 888-994-6669. That's 888-994-6669. Landrum, I appreciate you always having me. Guys, be safe, have fun, and let's go out there and make some money.
JR, thank you. We'll talk to you next week.
Joining us now on the Higginbotham Hotline from Irish Illustrated, good friend of the program, Tim O'Malley joins us now. Talk a little CFP. As Notre Dame does not have a conference championship game to play in this weekend, but they will be watching intently to see what's going on all over the place. Tim, I'm sure there's a lot of anxious Irish fans this weekend.
Yeah, it was Alabama that made them anxious too, because there weren't as many anxious Irish fans 1 week ago, but they are now once the Tide jumped one spot in front of them in the last rankings.
Yeah, so let's go back to Tuesday night. How shocked were you and the rest of the folks in South Bend seeing what the CFP committee did on Tuesday?
Not shocked because, first of all, I want to give credence to Alabama winning a rivalry game at Auburn. Now, Auburn's not that good, but they played, hard and well in that game. That means more than Notre Dame winning a mini rivalry game against a worse Stanford team. Obviously, their spreads are at 30 versus 5. Notre Dame was up 42-6 in that game in the fourth quarter before Freeman maybe should not have emptied the benches, apparently, because Miami does not do that. But 42-6, you wouldn't think they'd drop. I felt Alabama, by beating Auburn, that's all they needed to do to retain anything. Like if Alabama beats Auburn by a point in triple overtime, they don't deserve to drop. It's that type of a game. But I did find it odd they jumped Notre Dame with that. But then when you think about it, it is a ratings television show with money and conference affiliations involved. So it's not shocking, I think, that Alabama's one spot ahead of Notre Dame. I think what's more surprising is they weren't ahead of Notre Dame by a spot a couple weeks ago, as opposed to by beating Auburn, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I want to ask you this, Tim. When these conversations come up amongst people who subscribe to you, listen to you, Notre Dame fans, and we're talking college football playoff, how often you get from some of the Notre Dame contingency, you know what, maybe it'd just be easier to eliminate this conversation and join a conference?
Yeah, but if they joined the ACC, I guess they would have one loss in the ACC. Miami would be in fourth place instead of third, and Notre Dame probably would have gotten in to the ACC championship game. But that's really not the university's plan. I know Notre Dame fans want it. I honestly think when they expand to 16, it becomes less of an issue. If they ever go to the super conference, not super conference, if they ever go to the group of 40 versus the group of remaining teams, it's certainly not an issue. I don't see them going to leaving independence anytime soon, even if they're left out of one vote. Maybe play better defense against Texas A&M at home in the opener, and you won't be left out of one vote. Unfortunately for Notre Dame, their schedule trended down this year. Boise State could have come in as Boise State last year, and Notre Dame handles them. So that's a great quality win. Same thing happened to Alabama. They had Wisconsin and Florida State on there. Both of those teams stink. If they would have lost to 10-2 Florida State, nobody would have cared at all. If they would have beaten 9-win Wisconsin like the old days, that would have been a quality win. So you try to schedule the best you can out of conference, and of course Notre Dame's always out of conference. But I don't think this will make a determination. It makes fans angry, but that's really not the point of it.
All right, Tim, does it go down or does it boil down to as simple as if Alabama loses to Georgia, do you believe that Notre Dame is in, or do you think even with an Alabama loss that there's still some work to be done somewhere else because since they put Alabama ahead of Notre Dame in Tuesday night's rankings?
I think it's more important for BYU to lose again to Texas Tech because, let's be fair, as I said, it is a show about television and money, and BYU with 2 losses to the same team is not getting it over Notre Dame with 2 losses to number 6 A&M and number whatever they are now, 11 Miami, which Miami's right there. I think if Alabama gets killed, Notre Dame's going to be in because Alabama will have 3. And I think that's literally the only way Alabama doesn't make it as at least the last at-large team. If they just go lose to Georgia, it goes without saying if they lose by a field goal, they're going to make it. So let's pretend they lose to Georgia 23-13, one of those ugly games, but really it was a 7-point game. Then I think you have a vote coming from the committee. If they go out there and lose a classic like the one they won in, I think obviously they're going to be in. And if they beat Georgia, of course, that doesn't matter anymore. BYU is the most important loss for Notre Dame. If BYU wins, Notre Dame's out. I think if BYU wins this game, Notre Dame is out. So fortunately for Notre Dame fans, Texas Tech is a better team than BYU, and they handled them pretty easily last time. And and there was when you look at the game, all these things we look about now besides the score, like game flow and all the statistics inside every game that the committee seems to be using every once in a while, they really kill BYU. So I think Notre Dame fans are safe there, but you've seen a lot of crazy stuff happen on championship weekend.
Tim, we don't have the field set for the college football playoff, but we know some of the teams that are going to be participating have a good idea about most. When you look at this year's field versus last year's field, where is the parity between the two?
I think Ohio State last year was the best team all year, even with the loss there to Michigan. That was really weird. Of course, the loss to Michigan. I think you realize Ohio State regrouped pretty quickly when they absolutely manhandled Tennessee and Oregon. Had a good game with Texas and Notre Dame. But I don't think there's one team that I overly favor. I don't think Ohio State's as good as Ohio State last year. I don't believe IU is as good as we perceived Georgia to be last year. Though when Georgia lost Carson Beck, that got a little different. I think Notre Dame is a better all-around team, but last year they had more of a set identity with the running game and Riley Leonard. Like last year, when Notre Dame faced 3rd and 3, it was a first down everywhere on the field in the next 2 snaps, and that's something not a lot of teams have. And like Riley Leonard was a linebacker playing quarterback that limited them in the passing game against Ohio State. But I feel like this is more wide open, and Ohio State could lose a game. You'd have to see the 8th or 9 matchup for me to say they could lose that game. But I feel like last year when Tennessee was playing Ohio State, even after all that craziness, losing to Michigan and the Fire Ryan Day stuff, Ohio State was going to handle Tennessee. I don't know if it's the same this year.
Tim O'Malley joins us for a few more minutes from Irish Illustrated as we talk about this weekend and the CFP final rankings coming out on Sunday. So for those Miami fans in our audience here in the southeastern portion of the United States, let's say Texas Tech knocks off BYU, and you said that was one of the games that obviously if you're an Irish fan you need to pay very close attention to because obviously a BYU win, that would mean trouble potentially for the Irish. But let's say Texas Tech handles their business. Let's say Alabama beats Georgia. Give us, I guess, the standing discussion why Notre Dame should be ranked above a team that beat them at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, that's really what it all comes down to is 3 months ago, Miami beat Notre Dame at home. Does the committee think that matters more than everything that happened since? In other words, that has usually been a trump card. I don't know how much time it's a trump card on Labor Day, but going back to Labor Day, Miami beat Notre Dame by 3 at home. Since then, there have been 4 unranked losses as a double-digit favorite in college football among these playoff contenders. Miami has half of them with SMU and Louisville. They beat teams 9 wins with South Florida, 4 wins, 5 wins, 4 wins, 3 wins, 7 wins, 3 wins, 8 wins. That was Pitt. Notre Dame, of course, lost that one and lost to number 6 A&M. They then beat a 4-win SEC team. Another thing. Could have been nice if Arkansas would have won a couple games for Notre Dame along the way, huh? And all those close games because I think that's hurting them a little bit. 8-win Boise, who, by the way, Boise could actually still help Notre Dame playing in this. They do have a game this weekend. As a 9-win Boise team, that shouldn't matter, but it's going to boost Notre Dame's strength of the record, strength of victories. Then they beat a 7-win team, a 9-win team, a 10-win team, an 8-win team, and 3 absolutely terrible teams. So it's a really strange comparison. If your only data point is Labor Day Sunday, then Miami gets in over them. If your data point is all the metrics that the committee uses, and some of these metrics are really weird. They use like average starting position for drives is one of the 12 things they detail in there because I think they consider that game control. But when you look at it, Notre Dame it's a crazy one. This is Notre Dame, Alabama, and Miami in the 4 computers in a row. 4, 9, 10, 5, 10, 8, 2, 7, 6, 9, 10, 13. It's just Miami keeps coming up shorter, but they beat Notre Dame. So it's really, what does the committee think? Does it matter that Notre Dame's ranked ahead of them in every category? Or is the category that matters the game that happened 3 months ago? And then you come down to who deserves it more. Well, when you do resume and both teams have 10 wins, although Notre Dame fans will immediately point out Miami has 9 because they played an FCS team, and that should not count for the committee, and it never used to. Are they even because they have the same record, or is Notre Dame ahead of them because of all the statistics that have them ahead of them? I don't envy the committee in this situation. I think it was weird that Miami was 8 spots below Notre Dame, and now they're 2 spots below Notre Dame. I do think, however, that maybe they had Notre Dame a little too high at the beginning, and now maybe they've settled into where they believe they should be. It's going to be a heck of a decision. What it comes down to is deserving versus best teams. I don't think anybody, unfortunately, I think Alabama, Miami, and Notre Dame are all 3 of the 10 best teams. I'm just not sure how the committee's going to look at it, deserving or the actual 10 best at this point, because, of course, you got to throw in the bad ACC champion and the group of 5.
Tim, we can't predict anything that's going to happen, but just heading into the weekend, your level of optimism, what is your gut telling you when the decision's finally made on Sunday? Are Notre Dame's fans happy, or are they disappointed?
As long as BYU loses, Notre Dame's fans will be happy. If BYU wins, Notre Dame's fans are going to be happy. I really think that would be the death knell for Notre Dame. So the BYU game is number 1 for Irish fans. I think they'll get in. I think there's a pretty giant fan reaction to Alabama getting ahead of them, not as much because Alabama's ahead of them, but because Miami got closer. Now, the new conspiracy theory around here is that Alabama moved ahead of them, so if they lose close to Georgia, they can stay in the field ahead of Miami, which, of course, makes Notre Dame fans happy because that keeps Notre Dame in the field. You really never know what's going on. I do know that they have enjoyed – if this was a true committee, they maybe would not publish their results every week, but they get very good ratings for publishing these results every week. They might want to sit – if it was a real committee, might want to sit on this a little bit until the very end.
Yeah, listen, it's just nice to know that, our friends and brethren up in the upper Midwest, you guys have as much question marks about the committee as we do each and every week. The fact that we're asking these questions every Wednesday on this radio show in regards to what did we just hear and what does it mean and why has the president's been thrown out the window? Where are the metrics? Where is the transparency that we were promised? So trust me, we have this same conversation even in the heart of the SEC. It's something that we always scratch our head about.
Yeah, it's quite a thing because it does. That's the thing. I think it seems to change every time. In other words, the metrics didn't get worse for Notre Dame. Why did head-to-head get more important in the last 2 weeks? It's really interesting. The only thing I ever really stuck by is last year Notre Dame was kind of in a position like Alabama where they had to go out and win a road game as under a touchdown favorite against the worst team to stay in the playoff hunt. Notre Dame, if they lost at USC, would have been out because they lost to Northern Illinois. They went out there and beat them. It was closer than the 14-point score indicates. And I remember thinking, all you have to do if you're Ohio State against Michigan, Alabama, Auburn, Notre Dame, USC, all these things, is survive that game. You should never be dinged for it. So I did not think Alabama should at all be dinged for that. But everybody was surprised that Notre Dame was dinged for a 42-6 lead. So I think that's kind of what that came down to there.
Well, listen, and we agree with you, what you said at the beginning of the interview, which was we believed weeks ago that Alabama should have been in front of Notre Dame. Why this course correction happened this late in the season made the whole thing like a lot of debate. Because, again, not a shot at Notre Dame. It was just based on the data and based on what Alabama did, especially in the middle of the season in the SEC, it didn't make any sense why Notre Dame was still in front of them. So by them making that change Tuesday night, we would have been in the same position that Notre Dame fans would have been in, like, whoa, hold on a second. Why is this happening now?
Another strange aspect of it is it's tough with conferences now when they're so big because Alabama had a bunch of stuff. Vanderbilt turns out to be one of the better wins of all the contending teams. Well, Georgia's the best one, and then Vanderbilt is kind of low-key, one of the higher-ranking wins. But when you look at some, Alabama doesn't play Texas A&M, Texas, or Ole Miss, correct?
Correct.
that's some football to be played right there if it's a real conference. those are some games that really matter that don't get played. And of course, Georgia was in the same situation. Georgia didn't play everybody either. They beat Texas, but they didn't go out and play A&M. Imagine being A&M and you're not even playing for the conference championship game. You're undefeated until you played a non-SEC member until 2 years ago, and that was your rival, and you lost the game, and you're not even involved in that. So they probably don't mind not playing in that game because now they have a week to rest.
Well, listen, Tim, we always appreciate you carving some time out for us and coming on the show and giving us the Notre Dame side of things. And we always appreciate it. I hope you have a happy holiday, and I'm sure this weekend will be a very interesting weekend for both the fan bases that we cover and the one that you do.
Yeah, thanks a lot, guys, for having me on. It was a lot of fun, and hopefully it'll be a little bit more fun in playoff season because those that's what this sport has become. I'm not sure better or worse. That's what this sport is now about.
You're right. Hey, thanks, Tim.
Thanks,
happy
Tim.
holidays.
Thanks a lot. You too.
Thank you. He joined us on the Higginbotham Hotline. Higginbotham is your one-source solution for insurance, financial, and HR services.
We continue here on this Football Friday. We got Bet It or Forget It coming up at 12:30. You don't want to miss that as we continue on Three Man Front.
So during the break, we were watching the athletics director at Notre Dame. He was doing an interview. And unlike our previous guest, Tim O'Malley from Irish Illustrated just a moment ago, I thought Tim was a great interview. Just basically it was straight shooter right down the.
Yeah, it wasn't too heavy of a Notre Dame slant or bias.
No.
Tim's great.
I did like his comment about, you got to make room for that weak champion out of the ACC. Well, Tim, tell Notre Dame to go join the ACC and win that conference, and we're not having
Well, he
this
spelled it out.
conversation.
He actually played it out where if Notre Dame was in a conference, we're not having some of these conversations.
No, you're not.
They take care of business.
But it's funny because the athletics director, he's doing the interview right now, and he is saying that Alabama should not have been ranked
Well,
ahead of Notre Dame.
But the question I asked, because I was curious about the fan base and how do the fans feel up there, and coming from Tim, most of them want to join a conference and be done with it.
Mhm.
But it's the administration, which your athletic director, he's answering to the school and all the people that are in charge there. But until it hurts bad enough or they feel like they get screwed bad enough, it's not going to change.
Well, this year might be the year.
I was about to say, we might find out on Sunday.
Yep. We might see how motivated they are to get in a conference. When I wish somebody in the committee would have the to come out and say, you know what? We had this conversation in the room. If Notre Dame had played in a real conference, then perhaps we would have given them the benefit of the doubt that we gave these other teams that played in a tough conference.
Yeah.
If somebody says that, then you're going to see the ball start rolling.
But they don't have the
No,
do that.
No, because they want to keep them happy.
Well,
Want to
no
sign
mistake.
that $20 million check every
Make no mistake,
offseason.
Notre Dame is a machine, and there there are people that and I agree, but there are people that are hesitant to do it because of the fear of the repercussions and what that could mean. I don't know what that is. If I was a part of that, I would love for the committee member who's doing hey, it's my last hurrah, riding off in the sunset. Here you go. We won't get that though.
So I was looking over the committee just so that we can familiarize ourselves with what we're going to see on Sunday. You've got 5 ADs currently that work for universities, and they have to recuse themselves when certain things come up. You have the athletics director at Miami of Ohio, the athletics director at Nebraska, athletics director at Utah, athletics director at Virginia, and of course, Hunter Yurachek is the athletics director at Arkansas. You got 3 former coaches that is on there. And then you have a former player. You have Ivan Mizell, who is a former media member, who is from Mobile, Alabama. He's a graduate of Stanford University. So it'll be very interesting to see how all this shakes out. But one thing's for sure, I think you probably will have a fly in the ointment in some type of chaos this weekend. May not be from the SEC, but it may come from the Big 12. It may come from somewhere else. So we'll wait and see.
I don't know. And looking at it, and if it's chaos, then usually we don't expect it. And it's that matchup that you didn't expect. But what's the potential? Is it BYU, Texas Tech?
For me, and I heard Conrad point this out yesterday on the show. Let's say BYU beats Texas Tech, and let's say Alabama gets beat by 10 points. I mean, it looks like it's a good game. It's just a struggle. Alabama loses by 10. Then all of a sudden it's like you're leaving that door cracked enough to where you cannot say without a shadow of a doubt that Alabama deserves to be in the college football playoff. And because BYU is going to get a spot, Texas Tech's going to get a spot. And then all of a sudden, because you put them ahead of Notre Dame on Tuesday night's rankings, is that enough for Bama to go ahead and get in the CFP?
Well, the committee's going to view a BYU rematch win, a game that they lost originally by 3 touchdowns. That's a good win. Alabama, a team that they beat originally on the road. So it's similar, just when they won the games reversed. I can't find a way that you really justify it in your explanation if you left Alabama out. I guess that's the potential one, though. BYU upsetting everybody.
Mm-hmm.
But Tim O'Malley telling us that BYU, that's the That's the game that all the Notre Dame fans are going to be wearing their Texas Tech stuff.
Because I think everyone across the country, and I read some of the predictions, I don't think anybody thinks this is going to be a blowout one way or another with Georgia and Alabama.
No.
So they believe that at the end of the day, nobody is going to ding Alabama because they're going to lose a close game. They don't see this being a Georgia blowout. And if it is a Georgia blowout, then it probably means that somebody got hurt significantly for Alabama.
Well,
let's say Ty Simpson.
Well, and if you value Georgia as highly as you do, an Alabama team that beat them and then loses in a close rematch, you just, to me, I chalk it up as those are two really good teams.
Yes.
It's like
and
a
you play
wash.
10 times, one side wins 5, the other side wins 5.
Or in this case, Alabama would have won 9 and Georgia would have won 1 based on their last 10 times they played.
We do have, because we haven't gotten the final rankings and nobody's been screwed yet, we do have a committee room full of, I believe, a lot of good football minds, and they understand football, as opposed to maybe some past committees where you look, you go, ooh, I hope my team's fate is not resting in his or her hands.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. I will say this about Notre Dame, though. I know he brought up, BYU, obviously, if they win, that's not good for Notre Dame. I don't think it's good either way for them, though, because I feel, again, this is my opinion, if BYU loses, now maybe if they lose like a really, really close game, they won't fall. But I feel like if BYU loses, that still opens the door for them to jump Miami over BYU. Then Notre Dame and Miami are right next to each other. They're going to put Miami in over Notre Dame. I think Notre Dame potentially is screwed regardless because, again, I get the optics of it. It's frustrating, but the reality is they messed up the rankings 3 weeks ago, and they're trying to make up for it. That's what this whole problem is, and y'all nailed that, and Tim did as well. It's Alabama should have never been behind Notre Dame, and Notre Dame should have never been ahead of Miami. If they didn't do those two things, we're not having all the outrage that we're going to have.
Let's hear from Mario Cristobal. He's the head football coach of the Miami Hurricanes. He met with the media. This is what he had to say as he was politicking for what is next for his Miami Hurricanes.
We're being compared to, obviously, to Notre Dame in a lot of different forms and fashions, but the totality of our resume got just as strong or stronger than anybody else. And after their first 2 losses, right, their resume got stronger, but when you break it down, those 10 games, 2 were against group of 5 opponents. And of the other 8 games, 6 of those games were against defenses that were ranked 105 and beyond, right? 105 to 127. So I think when you start looking at the true facts surrounding a resume and how a resume is actually built, I think all those things will be taken into account. And I respectfully will always provide any and all information to whoever it is necessary so we could have a fair and honest judgment and decision on what is the reality that we're the best and most deserving team.
I just can't wait for Jim Phillips on Sunday. If there's a scenario where the ACC doesn't get anybody in, and if that were to happen, can you imagine like trying to spin a Miami team that did not play in this terrible conference for a conference championship and now have the ability to go play in the CFP with 10 wins? It's unheard of, but this is where we are. Another step closer to 2014 playoff.
So let me ask y'all's opinion on this. Do you think, well, it's foolish to ask anybody to be in the minds of the committee because we don't know what they're going to do, but do you think it almost helps Miami if Duke wins the ACC title game? Because then they have we can't put Duke in, but we don't want to leave the ACC out to dry. So that's maybe the final motivator of, all right, that head-to-head, let's give it to Miami, give ACC that spot. Or
That's
do you
a good
think
thought.
They would never in a million years say that publicly, but just like they would never admit that the reason they bumped up Alabama is to prevent them from falling out if they lost the SEC title game, but we all know that's part of the reason they did it.
I like that line of thinking. I could buy into that.
So Bama hater, be putting on your Duke blue tomorrow, rooting for Manny Diaz.
We've got about a week left. Abide Roofing, they're giving one deserving homeowner a brand new roof completely free. This is not a gimmick. This is not a sales pitch. I've been telling you about it for weeks. It's their way of saying thank you to the community that has trusted Abide Roofing with their homes. Here's how it works. Simply go to abideroof.com. Look for a green bar at the top of the homepage. You can nominate yourself, someone who deserves it. Then watch out for a winning announcement, which is coming up very soon. Value is up to a 30 square roof for roughly $13,000. It could be a single parent working 2 jobs. Maybe it's someone who's fallen on hard times during the holiday season. Maybe it's a veteran, first responder, or a teacher who's always giving back to others. Or maybe it's that neighbor who volunteers at every local event who is a true pillar of the community. Whoever it is, they want to hear your story at Abide Roofing. So go to abideroof.com. You can enter through December 12th. The winning announcement will be on December 19th. For complete details on how to enter the free roofing giveaway, just simply go to abideroof.com.
5 games, 5 picks from each of us. Bet it or forget it. Next.
As the season rolls along, this is Bet It or Forget It. We get 5 games. Landrum, Molly, Conrad against the spread or the point total. As of this moment, Landrum has a 1-game lead over Molly. Landrum is 41-34 against the spread. Molly is 40-35. Conrad is 37-38. We'll see if Conrad will continue. Last week, he kind of rolled the dice on a lot of stuff. Like he realized that he's got to be bold. He's got to do some things.
That may strategic.
And you were bold.
That maybe he would go against his conventional wisdom.
I'm cooked. Y'all, it's between the two of y'all. I'm back to making normal picks this week so I can have some dignity.
Don't say
let's
that.
put it-
I'm done.
You
Let's put it in
never
football
know.
terms.
I'm cooked.
Conrad on 4th and 24 from his own 5 is heaving it up on every pick.
I need a grave digger.
Is that
every
a
pick.
good comparison?
Yeah.
That is good.
I need 5 grave diggers today. And for y'all to not pick the same things I pick.
All right, let's get to it. This is Bet It or Forget It.
The following is for entertainment purposes only. Listener discretion is advised.
3-man fronts. Bet it or forget it.
All right, let's go to the Mountain West Championship. UNLV versus Boise. Boise is a 4.5-point favorite, 58.5. That's the point total. Boise State is 1-7 against the spread in its last 8 games played in the month of December. The total has gone over in 4 of Boise State's last 6 games against UNLV. Meanwhile, UNLV, they are 13-1 straight up in their last 14 games on the road. And they're playing at Albertson Stadium there in Boise. So let's start with Landrum, who is the leader in the clubhouse right now. You going to bet it or forget it?
Oh, I will bet it, but I'm going to go total on this one. I'll go with the under.
Molly.
I hate to say it, but I'm picking the same thing as Landrum. I also am taking the under.
She's being strategic.
No, because have
She's
you
copying
looked
you.
at the weather for this game? It is peak football weather. It's going to be wet and rainy and potential snowy, and it's going to be super, super cold. I like the under.
Yeah.
Conrad.
Oh, well, this works out. I get to make the pick I wanted, and I still get to be different, so that's great.
You'll always be different.
I'm very different.
That is true.
I like what y'all's thinking. I think the under is definitely a smart play in this one. I'm just going to ride with Boise, though. I think we saw them win the head-to-head earlier in the season over UNLV. They're the defending Mountain West champs. I like them. At home, they're a little more used to the colder climate than the Las Vegas residents are. So, yeah, give me Boise minus the points.
All right, so everyone in northern Indiana, and of course, a lot of people in Tuscaloosa will be paying very close attention to this BYU-Texas Tech game, the Big 12 championship game. Texas Tech, a 13.5-point favorite. 49.5 is the point total. The total has gone under in 5 of BYU's last 6 games played in the month of December. BYU, though, they're 9-2 against the spread in its last 11 games when they've been played as an underdog. Texas Tech is 10-1, though, against the spread in its last 11 games against an opponent in conference. So let's start with Molly. You going to bet it or forget it?
Of course, I'm going to bet it, Pat. And this is my most, I guess, nervous pick, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to ride with the Cougars. I don't think they're going to win the game, but 13.5, I at least like them to cover. I mean, obviously, this is a rematch, and in the first game in the regular season, BYU did not score a point until the 4th quarter. I don't think it's going to be the same for this game, so I at least like them to cover.
How about you, Conrad?
Yeah, this is my favorite game of the week, which means that it's going to go the exact opposite of how I think it's going to go in my head. I love Texas Tech in this game. Look, BYU's had a good season. When I watch them play, they just really don't impress me a whole lot. I think Texas Tech, though, is really, really good, and they can make it. I could see them playing for a national championship. I think they're that good. They won the first game by 22. Probably should have won that one by closer to 35, but they settled for a bunch of field goals. So I like the Red Raiders. I think they crush BYU tomorrow.
I think a little bit of tightness. I think BYU is going to definitely have trouble scoring points. I don't know about Texas Tech for a national title, but they're really, really good. People are going to find that out. I'm actually going to go BYU plus the points, though. I think that they can muck it up Keep it interesting for just a little while. I think points will come at a premium for the Cougars, but keep it within that 13.5.
Conrad, either you're going to be right back in the thick of it, or you're really going to be
this could go either
way
way.
back.
Let's ride.
All right, next game, Duke and Virginia. Virginia is a 4.5-point favorite. 57.5 is the point total. Duke is 1-9 against the spread in its last 10 games against Virginia. The total has gone under in 7 of Virginia's last 7 games. The Cavaliers, they're 7-3 against the spread in its last 10 games, though. So let's start with Conrad.
Yeah, if I was more in this competition here, I would have a different pick because this is strictly a gut pick. This is not my actual pick, but I really think just the way the ACC's gone, does it not make sense that Duke would find a way to win this thing and just mess it all up for them? But that is not my pick. My pick is the over. Both of these teams average more than 33 points a game. You're telling me all we have to get is say a 30-28 type of victory in this game, and that's going to cover the over. I like the over of 57.5.
Landrum.
I too like the over of 57.5.
Come on, you're not supposed to pick the same thing as me, Landrum.
Molly.
I was going to take the over too, but
Thank you. Just
yeah,
take
I'll
it.
still take the over. Sorry, guys.
All right, next game, Indiana and Ohio State in the Big Ten championship game. Ohio State's a 4.5-point favorite. 48.5 is the point total. Indiana is 0-10 straight up in its last 10 games against The Ohio State University. The total has gone over in 7 of Ohio State's last 8 games against Indiana. Ohio State is 8-1 against the spread in its last 9 games. So let's start with Landrum.
And I like IU. I wanted to pick IU, but you got to prove it. Maybe the moment's too big. I think Ohio State, too much talent, and they turn it on at the right time. Give me the Buckeyes minus the points.
Molly.
I'm actually going to take the under in this one. I know, shocking for a Big Ten game, and I know Ohio State, they've hit the over, but you look at their competition, who have they really played? But now we get arguably 2 of the best teams in the country going up against each other. These are also 2 of the best defenses in the country. Yes, they both have explosive offenses, but I think the defenses are going to shine in this game. So I like the under.
Conrad.
That's disappointing. I knew Molly was going to play the under. It's a Big Ten championship game. But I really thought Landrum was going to go with the Hoosiers, and that was going to lead this for me. But I'm with Landrum. I think Ohio State's the best team in the country. I think they will win the national championship when all is said and done. I think they win this game by 10 points. I think they're really, really good. They just haven't had to show it, and I think we're going to see it tomorrow and go, oh, yeah, that Ohio State team, they are the best.
Final game of the weekend. Southeastern Conference Championship, Alabama versus Georgia. Bulldogs a 2.5-point favorite. 47.5 is the point total. Bama is 8-2 against the spread in its last 11 games. The total has gone over in 10 of Alabama's last 14 games against Georgia. Georgia, meanwhile, they're 1-5 against the spread in their last 6 games against the Tide. So let's start with Molly.
Well, I'm going to bet it. And I hate this one too, because I look back to the regular season and I remember that over line, and I remember I took the over in that game, but then the under wound up hitting. But I'm actually, don't let me down, Conrad. I'm going to roll with Alabama. I think they're going to cover. I think they're going to win. We've seen it happen before. I think it's going to happen again. Give me the Tide.
All right. Conrad.
Oh, no.
Oh, no. We got
You got a prop?
Tagovailoa trying to make up for it. Fires to the end zone. Touchdown! Alabama wins!
Ooh, sorry, I hit the wrong button.
The night Conrad fell in love.
My bad, guys.
That's exactly right.
Did not mean to do that.
That was y'all's first date, right?
That was the first of many. I love you too.
And I won't take off his jersey.
That's right. Well, I had to wear it for my guy
I know.
the greatest moment in my sports life. Again, I feel the same way about this one as probably the last 10 Alabama-Georgia games. I think it's a coin flip. I do think Georgia has been playing better the second half of the season compared to Alabama, but you could say that a lot of times when these teams play. So until Kirby proves me otherwise, Alabama's your daddy. Alabama's going to win by field goal.
Landrum.
Alabama.
Another clean sweep.
Now I feel like I should have taken Georgia. Y'all are not helping me. Y'all didn't follow the script I gave y'all.
All right, that's this week's Bet it or forget it. We'll see if Conrad can make this a stronger competition as we head down the stretch of the season. Landrum up by 1 over Molly, and Conrad is 4 games back.
Yep. Conrad trying to pull the old Mike Leach and dropping his pick sheet in the office casually there on the floor. Molly and I went and picked it up, looked at it, and went opposite on most of his picks. We knew. We knew Conrad.
I'll try to get next week.
Yeah, that's right. We get your text, your phone calls welcome as well as we continue on Three Man Front. $12.53 Man Front on this football Friday. Got football tonight in the collegiate ranks, and our friends at Prize Picks, that's where we go every day here on the show. Typically, me and Conrad, sometimes Pat, we will offer our opinions on projections and player stat projections. That's what you're going to get at Prize Picks every single day. It's America's #1 fantasy sports app. You can download the Prize Picks app today. Use code WJOX. You're going to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code WJOX. $50 in lineups after you play the first $5 lineup. Prize Picks tonight. We are going college football out of the American Conference. You got John Sumrall in Tulane trying to win that thing, extend their season potentially. taking on North Texas. Both of these coaches moving on. They've already found new jobs. Eric Morris going to Oklahoma State. Of course, John Sumrall to Florida. We got a quarterback projection tonight, Conrad. Drew Mestamaker, North Texas quarterback. 321.5 passing yards.
That is a high number, but he is also the passing yards leader in all of college football, and this is a championship game, so let's have some fun. More.
Former BYU quarterback for Tulane, Jake Retzloff, 239.5 passing yards, more or less.
That's like right on the more.
You're going to go more?
Points
in the home stadium, friendly confines of Yulman Stadium. We're going to go more on both of those. If we hit both of those, we're a winner. You can be a winner to download the Prize Picks app, code WJOX to get the $50 in lineups after the first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right.
Some sad news to pass along in the world of college football, and especially here in the Southeastern Conference. Longtime Commissioner Roy Kramer passed away today. He was 96 years old. Among his many accomplishments as the commissioner, and just a great guy. We interviewed him countless times on the Paul Feinbaum Show, had an opportunity to be around him many times, and just a really good man. He was a great commissioner. He was the architect for a lot of young people that are listening to the show, and you wonder about this weekend across college football in regards to the conference championships. It was Roy Kramer. Roy Kramer came up with the idea to have a conference championship game, split the SEC into divisions. The SEC was the first conference to do it, but it was because of him. He was the architect of the championship game. And, of course, the SEC expanded, and then in 1992 had the first ever conference championship game. And then right after that, the other conferences followed suit with what Roy Kramer did. It's ironic that here we are about to celebrate the 34th anniversary of the SEC championship game in Atlanta, and Roy Kramer will be the first one that he will not be around to see.
Yeah, echo everything that you said, Pat. Tomorrow, I would expect that there on the broadcast, there will be recognition and remembrance and all of the achievements that he had and the person he was. And 96 years old, that's a long life to live, and so many different people that he impacted, and a game that we love so much that he impacted so greatly.
The first 2 years of the SEC championship game was played here in Birmingham at Legion Field. And if you experienced the first two SEC championship games, it was one of the colder games that you probably ever went to in your entire life in 1992 when Antonio Langham picked off Shane Matthews, ran into the end zone, and Alabama was crowned the first ever SEC champion out of the championship game. And then the next year, it was it was cold, it was pouring down rain. Florida beat Alabama in the second edition. And then year three, it ended up going to Atlanta, where it has been ever since. But Roy Kramer passed away today at the age of 96 years old. He was born in 1929 in Maryville, Tennessee. He played at Maryville College. He was a standout lineman. He played in the Tangerine Bowl, which is now the Citrus Bowl, back in 1947. Played in the bowl game in 1947. Wow. So, amazing career. He was later the head coach at Central Michigan University. In his 11 seasons, he led the Chippewas to an 83, 32, and 2 record. That is a 7-18 clip as a head coach. 1974, he was named the NCAA National Coach of the Year. He led the Chippewas to a 12-1 record in a Division II national championship. I mean, he was coach. A lot of people would call him Coach Kramer, not Commissioner Kramer, but they call him Coach Kramer. And then he later became athletics director at Vanderbilt University, where over 12 years he revitalized the school's athletic program. And then, of course, he came on board as the commissioner of the SEC in 1990.
He will be missed.